Mrs. Danielle DeVita back with another video. I overheard someone say that marriage is overrated. A lot of women say, I like the strong silent type. Well, a lot of men like the feminine silent type. And for sure, it's going down. So a lot of times people are not getting the when to speak and when to be quiet is one of the most powerful. She's going to be aggressive, thinking that. And as someone who's been married for 12 years, she's driven, not lazy. And this will make yourself and get on the right path. That understand that you might be doing a disservice to your daughter if you don't help her understand vetting and proper decision making. Now she's going to be a basket case later. If you don't help her understand emotional intelligence, she's going to hold on to a lot of emotional baggage. If you don't. Welcome to another episode with Mrs. Danielle DeVita. This is a recorded live. So I am doing a lot more recorded lives now because, you know, it doesn't really make sense to actually go live. It's not as much engagement as I want. So in the meantime, I'll have these lives set up and ready for you to still listen to. You can still chat, place a comment, and once we get a little bit more engagement, once we have a little bit more of an audience, then we can start bringing back the engagement. But for all of those who do engage, I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. A little housekeeping rules before we get started today. If you're interested in my book, you are able to go to mrsdanielledevita.com. You can go to the my books section, and then you'll be able to see the book that I have out now is Command Respect for No Woman You Want. It's a quick guide for men. This late spring going into the summer, I do have some books for women, which is called Girl Go Get Your Husband, and for teenage girls, Boy Bye. So today's segment, we're going to be talking about daddy issues, and a lot of women do have them, and that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the daddy issues that people have and how you can overcome it. I am a relationship and femininity coach, and my goal is to help both men and women find the people that, you know, they best deserve, right? And today we're going to talk about women in this case in regards to daddy issues, because I do notice it affects women a lot in this particular area as it relates to relationships. However, if you are a man listening, you can take these same things and put it towards if you have daddy issues or mother issues and things like that. So let's get started. The first thing is misplaced anger. A lot of times, people, when they have issues and trauma with their caregiver, it's some type of misplaced anger. And what I mean by that is you're angry at that person. You're angry at your daddy for not doing right by you, not, caring for you right, not treating you right, not loving you right, the way you felt that you deserved to be loved. And this is one of those things where instead of being upset with that person, maybe because they're not in your life, maybe because you haven't talked to them, maybe you haven't seen them, maybe they passed away, and you can't, or they're still here, but you feel like you can't let out that anger. So what you do is you lash out at others. Maybe you say there's no point for relationships, there's no point for marriages, there's no point for love, you don't like men at all, or you do not like a certain race of men if that person reminds you of your dad, and you get angry at everyone else that resembles something you want, right? You wanted that love, so now you feel like love does not exist here, so you don't seek for it. You don't want to express your feelings, any type of emotional attachment to people, because you were detached from the father that you wanted to be attached to in a loving way. So that's one. So first recognize that, and once you realize that there is a misplaced anger, then you will be able to say, hey, I'm angry at this person, and let me have this honest conversation with this person. And if I can't, let me write it in a letter. Let me get it out, because I don't want to mess up my future because of my past. And this will bring me to my next point, in regards to being able to how to cope with this anger. Now, before I continue, I want to make it clear that I am not some type of mental health therapist. I am not some psychiatrist or psychologist or anything like that. This is how I know how to best deal with situations. I'm one who's been very direct in life. I have thick skin. I have learned to grow from a lot of things that have happened to me in life. And the goal is to make sure that we can move forward. I'm one that I don't let, things get me down. I'm optimistic, and sometimes I'm a realist, right? But I'm very optimistic in the future. And I don't want things that are in my past to affect my future. A lot of these things are just, even though I'm talking about daddy issues, a lot of these things are just general relationships. Not letting the past catch up to your future, learning how to have real and true dialogue. This comes from maturing, having children, being married. I've been married for over 13 years, and there's no relationship where you don't learn to overcome some type of obstacle by opening your mouth and getting over that hump of this uncomfortable conversation, right, to get through it. So this is just me speaking from experience. Also, I do have a background. I have a degree in communications, whether it's public, corporate communications, and how to speak and deal with people in communication. So I do have that background, which is probably why communication is something that's easier for me, and how to deal with tough conversations. Also, just me being able to learn how to negotiate and be able to speak, right? So that's something that I've learned also in my legal field. All right, so let me continue. So again, I am not giving you some type of advice as some type of therapist, but this is just my opinions from learned experience and through my background in corporate and public communication and interpersonal communication. So my degree in that. Number 2 is confusing your father's lack of self-worth for yours. And what I mean by that is, if you've noticed that a lot of times, or you may have heard later on, maybe you found out later, or maybe you've already known the story, that a lot of times your father has had a troubled childhood, and you would think like, why is this person so mean? Why is this person a drunkard? Why is this person doing this, doing that? Why are they never there? Because they themselves weren't taught how to be fathers. They weren't taught because their father wasn't there, right? Or the caregiver they wanted to be there was not there. So they don't properly learn how to be the man they need to be for you. And they usually have troubled childhoods themselves. They have issues going on with themselves, and that kind of pushes it off on you. And so you're thinking, why are they like this? Why are they not good? Why are they not the father that I need them to be? And many times they're troubled themselves. They have daddy issues themselves, but because they did not learn how to cope or deal with it, they just brought that into their new relationship, and then they made a child, you, and then they pushed everything that they learned on what it was to be a father on you. And so a lot of times we have to understand that they got their own issues, and they got their own issues going on with self-worth, and I'm not going to let that affect who I am. How they treated me, what they said about me, how they made me feel. That's not me. That's them. They're projecting. And in many cases, we have to understand that that's them. And then that goes back to what I was saying in one, misplaced anger. So now when we understand that man, your father, has his own issues, and he was just projecting on you because he didn't learn how to be the father he needed to be. Now you don't have to project that on every man that comes into your life, so you don't have to sabotage future relationships, friendships, and things like that, because then now you don't have to project, because you realize, oh, what my dad did to me really didn't even have to do with me. It's not me. I didn't do this to him. He's mad at my mom, or he's mad at his mom. He's mad at his dad. He's mad at all the life troubles that came his way, and he's just projecting it out on me. So now I don't have to project it on others because I'm thinking that something's wrong with me. It's nothing wrong with me. And maybe there are some issues going on with you, but as far as how your father treated you, or why he wasn't there, why he never came around, you don't really have to ask the question as much, why is it me? Why didn't you love me? What did I do? Right? Sometimes people are still going to ask, but now you can say, you know what? It's not me. It's him. He has his own issues he's going through, his own, trauma that he hasn't healed from, his own issues in this relationship that he had with my mom that he hasn't healed from, and he's just projecting out on me. I am just a scapegoat. I am just the surrogate for his problems. The same way I was misplacing my anger onto others in my relationships, he's misplacing his anger onto me. And when you realize and separate the two, then you can separate the man from all other men. You can separate this daddy from all other daddies. You can separate this marriage that your parents had or this relationship your parents had from your relationships and your love, right? Because they're not the same. He got his issues. Now you can deal with yours separately instead of thinking that they're somehow connected, right? Then this brings me to number 3, mimicking the behaviors, the weaknesses from your father unto others. And what I mean by that is, let's say that your father was detached. So you felt like you were abandoned because he never had that connection with you. He was either not there or he didn't show love when he was there. He was not mentally there or emotionally there or spiritually there or even financially there like you needed him to be. You didn't have that security blanket that you wanted that from what should be what a father gives. You sometimes people in general pull that weakness out. They see another man that reminds them of their father and they go and be with that man. But you don't want to pull the weaknesses out and then go seek for someone else who has that same weakness. And you're like, well, all men are the same. No, you found someone that reminded you of your father, but the very thing that reminded you of your father is the weakness that was in your father, not the strength that was in your father, right? Because a lot of times we do like to remember the bad things in people, but there's some good parts. So why don't you pull out the good parts of that person if your father happened to be around, if you do remember some good things. Maybe, he knew how to make you laugh. Now you can pull that part out in the father that you had, but it's best to pull out things that you wish your father was, right? So if your father was someone who wasn't loving, he didn't speak in love, he didn't act in love, maybe you couldn't live up to his expectations. Don't find a man who's exactly like that. Find someone who he fills in the gaps of what you may have been missing. So if your father, again, like I said, he didn't speak in love, then you know how to properly vet. All right, mommy didn't go find someone who spoke in love, but I'm going to go find someone who spoke in love because I want to make sure then when I have my daughter or my son, that man is going to speak to my child in love so I can break the cycle. All right, so I guess that kind of merges into my next thing. So like I said, you don't want to mimic the weaknesses that are in your father and then the same weaknesses are in the man that you're with, right? And then that, like I said, the last one would be you don't want to see where mommy made the mistakes and you do it too. So mommy didn't properly vet for daddy. Mommy missed the boat on some things here. But you want to break that cycle. So where daddy was lacking in X, Y, and Z, you can find a man that does the opposite. But many times we say, you know what? Life has dealt me these cards. Life has taught me to be hard. Life has taught me to be masculine because I couldn't be my femininity given the survival mode that I was in. Life taught me this. No, that person did that to you. And so to survive in that relationship, to survive that father-daughter situation, or to survive this type of situation, you had to endure that. But life doesn't teach you that. Technically, life is teaching you that this person wasn't worth it. So now you should find someone who's worth it. And I'll give you a great example. Sometimes people say, life has taught me to be hard because life... I'll give it in the context of our father. So, my father taught me to not share my feelings, right? Not to be emotional, because dealing with him, I had to be hard. I had to toughen up, or I had to be strong because he wasn't there. I had to play this particular role. But then life teaches you, so where mommy didn't vet, you vet for the man who's going to appreciate your vulnerability, right? Life isn't teaching you to be hard from now on. For that relationship, maybe you had to be to get through. But that's that relationship. But in order to be in the other relationships, you want to get with someone who's going to appreciate your vulnerability and not take advantage of it, like Daddy did, right? Life is going to teach you how to love and respect. Where with this person, there was no love and respect. Maybe you didn't have love for Daddy, have respect for Daddy because what Daddy did. But you want to be in a relationship where you can be proud to have a daughter that can speak highly of her father. So you don't want to be just like, you don't want your daughter to be in the same situation you're in, where Daddy wasn't around. Daddy didn't speak to me well. Daddy didn't show me love. Daddy was like all the other men out here, talking to me with no respect. You want her to love and appreciate the kind of man that Daddy was. So you should look for people who are going to not take advantage of that, what you have. Not take advantage of your emotions. Not take advantage of your feelings and the soft part of you, but to embrace that part, because a true man who's living in his masculinity is not going to take advantage of that. They're going to treat it as precious. So even though Daddy didn't, you can find someone who will. And in turn, when you have a child, they're going to do right by that child. So a lot of times we do we recognize that these things are happening. We say, oh yeah, I acted out because I do have daddy issues. I have issues with relationships because I have daddy issues. Okay, I have issues with trust because I have daddy issues. We recognize it, but we don't actually acknowledge what it is that we're feeling at that moment and then deal with it. Okay, you know what? Right now, I must be having issues with trust. And so now I'm projecting, right? Acknowledging. I'm projecting my feelings that I had with my dad onto this man, but they're two different men. So let me treat them differently. Let me first make sure that I properly vetted, that I'm not seeing the same weaknesses in this man that I saw in my dad. So, okay, do they have the same weaknesses? Maybe I need to get in a different relationship. Okay, but no, he's not the same. They're different. Okay. So let's make sure now that I change and give this guy a clean slate. I start over with trust. Because where this person did not earn my trust, I made sure I'm in a relationship where a person earns my trust. Not by me doing this checklist, but by me acting accordingly, telling this person what I want up front. So when they don't meet it, then I can have that conversation and move on if I need to. So we don't just go through relationships and then hope that people, check the boxes, and then when they don't, we go, oh well, I had this box and you didn't check it off. No, we talk about these things in the very beginning, because that's probably where mommy messed up. She didn't go over early what she expected out of a relationship. Both parties should do that. Men and women should say what they expect out of a relationship. That's part of vetting. And then you go into okay, let me make sure that I give this person a clean slate. That's how you actually give a clean slate. You tell them up front what you want, giving them the opportunity, not waiting for the other shoe to drop, but telling them all of what you want, giving them the opportunity to fulfill those things, instead of just going through the motions. And then when someone mess up, there you go. See how men do? But you never gave them that expectation up front. We're projecting off of daddy issues. So that is all I wanted to talk about. Of course, you can seek a therapist for a full breakdown on how to cope with your issues. But these are some of the issues that I do see often that can, parlay into relationships. And again, a lot of trauma is magnified when you're in relationships, when you're in marriages. It's truly marriages, because marriages magnifies all the weaknesses and troubles in a relationship, because marriage takes a different level of commitment than a relationship. Even if you're in a relationship at the same time, marriage has a different level of commitment involved in it. And a lot of people are going to have childhood trauma. They're going to have mommy or daddy issues, and they're going to have to work through these things. So no matter who you have issues from, even if this is from a past relationship, these same things that I'm saying would apply. But the whole idea is recognizing daddy for being daddy and not making daddy to be the face of all men or the face of all of this gender, the face of all race, the face of all people of love. Because what mommy and daddy relationship was like may not be like yours, especially if you change your course of action and do something different than what mommy did. All right. So thank you so much for tuning into Mrs. Danielle DeVita. Take care. We live in a world where femininity, marriages, family, and courting is no longer valued. We live in hookup culture, situationships, and struggle love. The number one reason women struggle in long-term relationships, number one, femininity, and number two, staying in a relationship or entertaining people longer than the woman should.
My name is Danielle DeVita, and I'm a relationship and femininity coach. I've been married for 12 years, and I want to help you get on your feminine journey and vet for the right man today. For more of my content, you can visit MrsDanielleDeVita.com, or you can go to YouTube, Instagram, or my Facebook page. Get on your feminine journey today.